All right, folks. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at this battery from Timeusb. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery, and you can see that down here. The model of this battery is called the Sturdy, and it is a 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, as I mentioned. Down here, you have a couple of different icons like CE, FCC. Here is ROHS. It's recyclable. Do not burn it and do not throw it in the trash. And I'm going to move this so you can see the rest of the branding on the battery. You have this little fella down here, and you have his RV with a solar panel. And then up at the top, it says LiFePO4 for lithium iron phosphate battery. And we're going to do a couple things in this video. We're going to run a capacity test on this, and then we are also going to hook it up to an inverter and test some appliances running off of this particular battery. Before we get started, I did want to say that I was contacted by Timeusb, and they asked if I would do a review of this battery. And of course I said yes. I like making videos and I like batteries, so here we are. If you're the type of person that gets triggered by sponsored videos, I suggest you go watch some cat videos. Okay, so I wanted to show the top of this battery, and I don't know if you noticed from the opening of the video, this battery is very long this way and it's very short this way. We'll pull up a website that shows the dimensions so you can understand them. And then it has these M8 terminal connectors here, one for positive and one over here on the other side for negative. Inside the box, it came with a bunch of stuff, and let me show you that right now. First, it came with these terminal protectors that were on here, and I would suggest that you use these whenever your battery is not in use. That way you avoid shorts and you protect the integrity of these terminals. The other thing is it came with two bolts. These are M8 bolts, and they have a washer and a locking washer, and you use these to affix any connectors to the battery. Once they are affixed, you have these plastic caps, and you can put these plastic caps on top to give you some further protection against discharge, short circuit, or anything else. So pretty handy stuff. Let me go ahead and take this out. And without further ado, we're going to get the video started. Okay, so for this capacity test, what we did is we've connected some wires up. This is 10 gauge copper wire, strand of copper wire that is connected to the positive, and I have one connected to the negative terminal of the Timeusb battery. And I'm just going to go ahead and move that off screen. And then we're going to use this device, which is the West Mountain Radio CBA computerized battery analyzer. And what this does is it applies a load to our battery. And we are going to run this load at 10 amps of draw, which is 0.1 C for this particular battery. Now, I believe their official tests were done at 0.2 C, but that's okay. We should get a close to accurate reading. What we do is that we take this this power pole connector that I built and plug it right into here. And then we have a USB port here where it connects to the computer. So let me plug this in, and then we're going to come back, take a look at the software, and configure our test. Okay, so here's our new test window. And the first thing I'm going to do is come up here to the upper right-hand corner, and I'm going to make sure that I have lithium iron phosphate, or LiFePO4, selected. And I'm going to hit the detect button, and you can see that it's detecting a voltage of 14.1. This just came off the charger about an hour ago. We have our capacity set at 100 amp hours, and it has 4 cells. So here in the center of the screen, I have cutoff voltage at 10. So once the analyzer detects 10 volts, it will shut down the test. Now, the battery may stop before then for 2 reasons. One, be it BMS cutoff voltage, or it may run out of juice. So if either of those happen, then the test will stop. We're looking at about a 10-hour test, which takes all day. We have our test amp set for 10, and our graph is going to be amps over hours. And then over here, all the way to the left, we have discharge selected. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. Okay, so now you can see the West Mountain CBA tester interface. The test has started, and you can see that we had a little bit of a drop in voltage once we put a load on here, which is completely normal. And then we have this red line, which is graphing our progress. Over here on the right-hand side, our live data, the battery is now at 13.34 volts. And you can see specifications for the actual test that's running. So far, we've pulled 1.35 amp hours out, 1.89 watt hours. Test has been running for less than a minute at 57 seconds. 10 amp draw. Okay, we are going to come back a little bit later and see how it did. Well, the test is finished, and a couple of things happened. About an hour into the first test, I plugged something into my USB hub, and the test stopped running. So I had to disconnect everything and charge the battery again and start over. So here are the results of the second test. And you can see over here, we were at around 14.1 volts when we started out. And what's interesting, if you take a look over here in the completed table, we got 116.394 amp hours. Now keep in mind the battery is rated at 100 amp hours. So it makes me wonder what kind of stuff they got going on inside of there. We are 1,486 watt hours. And the test ran for 701 minutes, which is a little over 11 and a half hours. Typically this test on a 100 amp hour battery takes 10 hours to run. So it was a lot of waiting around. And we did the draw at 10 amps. A couple of things on this curve, which looks pretty good, I wanted to point out is at 100 amps. So that is the usable rating for the battery. We were at 12.473 volts, which is pretty good. A lot of times we'll see the number be a little lower than that. And then the test was disconnected by the West Mountain Radio CBA at a rating of 10 volts on the battery. So we'll have to check the manual and see what the low voltage cutoff on the battery is. But this test was not stopped by the BMS in the battery. It was stopped by the testing software, which is typical. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the manual, and I'll show you where you can pick up this battery. And then we're going to hook it up to an inverter and do some load testing. All right, I just wanted to roll this picture in real quick showing how we charge these batteries. People ask me how do I charge my batteries, and I typically will either use solar panels or this NoCo Genius 10 amp charger, and it puts 10 amps in per hour. Very simple to connect, and it works quite well. Okay, I wanted to take a quick minute to take a look at the product documentation that comes with the Timeusb Sturdy. So let's see what's in this bag. I like the way that they pack these materials in this bag. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. Let's see what we got. Nice, look at that. A bunch of stickers. Everybody loves stickers, right? Put those over there. And it looks like we have two quick operation guides, one in English and one that looks to be in German, but I'm not 100% sure about that. All right, taking a look at it, it just tells you to carefully read through the product manual before use. It says it ships at 30 to 50% capacity. That was my experience. It says, after unboxing, wear insulated gloves for battery installation and wiring, and that's probably a good idea. It looks like this is the first page. This would be the second page. This would be the third. They tell you not to disassemble the battery, and it talks a little bit about connecting and using the battery. And then the last page says avoid the battery near fire and soaked in water, which is probably good advice. Here is a copy of the manual in English, and then again, I think we have another one here in German, 100 amp hour BMS. We're not going to go through everything in this manual, but I did want to point out a couple of different things, particularly the specifications. Here are the M8 bolts, and they say they are 5/8 or 16 millimeters in length. So you could see that right there. Let me zoom down on this and make it a little easier for folks to see. Some safety information or instructions, some warnings, some after receiving the batteries. All right, here are the parameters that we're interested in. Cell type, we knew that. We knew the nominal voltage. We know the rated capacity and energy. Here's the internal resistance. Here's the charge voltage, 14.4. Recommended charge current at 0.2 C or 20% of the rated capacity. We're charging at 0.1 or 10 amps. Our max continuous charge current is 100 amps. I wouldn't recommend that. And then discharge current max is 100 amps. Again, I wouldn't recommend that. It's okay to do that, but I wouldn't put that kind of load on any battery. Here's your max discharge current for 5 seconds, 280 amps, and max current output power, 1,280 watts. So here are the dimensions. We are 19 inches in length. Width is 6.7, and then the height is 9.5 inches. ABS material on the outside, IPC65. And then here's your temperature ranges. Charge anywhere from 32 to 122. Discharge from -4 to 140. I don't like to discharge lithium-ion batteries below, a little bit below freezing. And then here's some storage parameters. Here's some before using information, and then there's some great information on here on charging methods and how batteries actually work. So it's really nice of them to include that in here. Here's some information if you're going to connect it to a solar controller or an alternator generator. Here's some information about the capacity of the battery and cable sizing, which is really handy. So this is the type of cable that you want to use for the amount of amps that you're going to draw. Very handy if you're going to set that up. And it has some great information on here about connecting the batteries in series or in parallel if that is something that you're going to do. So I really applaud Timeusb for including this kind of valuable information in their product kit. And then here's some more wiring diagram references. And then some troubleshooting of what to do when your battery stops working. All right, let's get on with the test with the inverter. So here you can see the website for the Timeusb battery, the Sturdy, which is the one that we are reviewing today. And I'll have this link included below where you can come here and you can check it out and see if there's any other specifications you're interested in. Right now, the sales price is $285.99 with shipping calculated at checkout. You can also buy it on Amazon, and I'll have that link below as well if you wish, along with a discount code that should be good for a while. Anyhow, you can just come here and scroll down and you can see all the different information about this particular battery. I wanted to quickly show that to everybody. So here we have the Timeusb battery connected to our pure sine wave inverter. It's a 1500 watt inverter. And we have a multimeter clamp on the positive terminal so we can read amperage out of the battery. And then we have the blue multimeter reading the battery voltage. Now this battery was charged up to 14.2 volts when I took it off the charger and I let it sit for a few hours. Now it's reading 13.59. I'm turning on the heat gun from Harbor Freight, and that's what everybody likes to see in these tests. And you can see the voltage is starting to drop to a little bit below 13 volts, and we are pulling 610 watts out of the inverter. We've gone from 58 to 118 amps. Now the heat gun is on high. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a small space heater into the mix, so let me go get that and we'll come back once it's all set up. Now we're setting up the small space heater and I plug it into the Kuman watt meter, and that's what we're using to read output wattage from the inverter. Because the heat gun's plugged directly into the inverter, we're not going to see that now. But you can see we're pulling about 400, now a little over 400 watts and 50 amps from the battery. You can see that on the clamp meter. I'm going to turn this up to 85 degrees and then you can see the amperage continue to go up. Right now we're hanging around 75 amps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat gun on low, and that's going to add about another 58 to 60 amps to the draw. And here we are pulling 150 amps out. Now keep in mind the rating for this battery is 100 amps of continuous discharge. So this is performing over specification and longer for its burst. Granted, the burst is for around 240 amps if I remember correctly from the manual. But the battery handles it just fine, and this doesn't appear to be a problem. All right, folks, so we took a look at the specifications. We took a look at the instruction manual that came with the Timeusb battery. We talked a little bit about its size and dimensions. We did a capacity test, and it exceeded that, and we did a load test, and it was able to draw more current than the rated specification. So with that, I'm just going to say I'm happy with the Timeusb Sturdy. I like this battery, and I'm going to put it into my rotation, and I'm going to use it for things that we do around the ham shack. And I'll probably do another video on this showing how I use it with solar panels, or perhaps the solar panels in an amateur radio station, something along those lines. But I want to say thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, post them below, and I'll do my best to respond. And I want to say thanks to Timeusb for sending this battery to me for my consideration. Take care.